Hello, my human family. So today I have one of my mates from Fluid Voice. It's We got all three roughly in a row, um, and this is Perfect, Perfict, who doesn't really say much about um, his personal life, but we're not gonna do that. Instead, we're gonna talk about uh, us, we're going to talk some philosophy on Star Trek The Cage, the pilot episode of Star Trek. Um, Now, I'm going to confess, really didn't see the original series. I saw some of it when I was young, um, but we didn't watch We didn't watch TV, and I have seen much less than I have read. Um, I've read all the James Blish um, novelizations in which this is not included. I don't think, um, and I haven't seen the animated series at all. I picked up. I saw the movies in the theater. Two of the times I was preview audience for reasons which because I was in a science fiction group and everybody just assumed it's the way things are. And I wanted to talk about I wanted to talk about the cage because I find it fascinating. I did see it once in the 80s in a black and white version. Um, and the uh, and it was not well restored. Um, I found it interesting, just off the side, that you could tell where the cuts were because and where they put the better film stock in on the more recent version because the frame just barely changes, and if you're not paying attention, you won't notice it. Um, and it's just I'm so and my peripheral just inside is better than my line of sight vision. Um, that's not important to the philosophy at all. It's just something I noticed. I found it distracting, and I don't know what to do with it. So there it is. Um, anyway,
So now it's ours.
so now it's ours. This is the second time, by the way, I'm trying side to side. I'd actually like comments on whether this is a better way to do this than having it speaker view. Um, so you get to see me react or drop something and pick it up like last time. Um, yeah, Jesse Gender, who is a Star Trek uh, YouTuber, was a Star Trek and gender YouTuber was the one that split up the being, having all three of the Fluid Voice. Fluid Voice is is a channel that Perfict and I are both on Sundays. Sundays, yeah,
Sundays now, yes.
Sundays now. But you may be watching this in the far distant future and wondering why the Earth burned to a cinder, and we're the reason. I'm telling you right now, we're the reason. Us specifically. Uh, so
Well,
the
we had a hand in it anyway.
yeah. Oh, I spent 10 years driving a car that got 12 miles a gallon. So, eh, um,
Jacques!
That is me. That is absolutely me. Uh, shall I be arrested for? Shall I be hung for a crust of bread? Um, sorry, I didn't want to go off on the Miserable. I another thing where I've not seen any. There's another thing where it is a thing where I have read the book, but I've never seen any of the movies. So there you go. That happened. I'm telling you, I read a lot more than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So, anyways, hello, Perfect. Say hello to the nice people or the unnice people. I don't care. Anybody's welcome to watch.
Howdy.
So you went back and watched the Cage.
The Cage,
For
yes, and the
this.
Menagerie, the adaptation of The Cage into an episode of the first season of Star Trek.
I'm looking forward to it because I know I've seen it, but I have no memory of it. And when there's a reference to Captain Pike's future in an episode of Discovery, and and I knew what it meant, so I must have seen it.
Yeah, a lot of people have, and the talk about it in tied into free will and determinism.
That
Which seems,
yes, that is where I was trying to go. Free will, determinism, and freedom, and whether it's better to live happy caged, or which is another question altogether. Which depends on what you think of free will and determinism. Sorry.
I guess it depends on what you think of free will and determinism. I think that free will and determinism are simply perspectives on the same thing.
Really?
That,
How so?
well, the analogy I like to use is our explanations for gravity, and that we had Newtonian mechanics, and that seemed to explain at least the function of gravity, how it was working, or not
Right.
how it was working, but how it worked, and that and that explanation seemed to be working. And then Einstein proposed that it was a different sort of mechanics altogether, that it was a distortion in space that was causing the motion. It was not an attraction over distance, and that it wasn't at all like magnetism or any of the other forces that it wasn't a force at all. And then an experiment came up dealing with eclipses, and a star near enough to the light passing by the sun was bent.
Right. The 1910 experiment. And I know the paper was in
Yeah,
1905, but there was the 1910 was.
yeah, I think it was 1910. That sounds about right.
I
And we recently had another eclipse that was of the same kind, where we could get the same and see it again like a century later. So that was interesting and fun, but it wasn't anything. It wasn't new information. But in any case, that kind of settled it. But what if there'd never been anything that settled it? What if we've had lots of things that settle it since?
Mhm.
But what if we'd really never come up with an experiment to settle it? That would be just two different perspectives on how things work. And determinism and free will are sort of like that. And the rhetoric that you use surrounding it, what responsibility means, changes if you change what you understand. Just like the fact is, the apple doesn't get pulled to the earth. That space is being distorted, and the apple is moved towards the earth. That there's a difference in how you understand what's happening there. but it doesn't change what you're describing or at the rate at which the apple accelerates.
Well,
So none of the factors involved are changed, like responsibility or any of those sorts of things. And if you're looking at it in the terms of mechanics of society, you're going, there's no real difference between the idea of punishing someone so that you can change their behavior and saying, I'm giving you new inputs so that you will have new product. You will behave differently because you will have received different inputs during the course of your life, and that kind of thing. And that recognizing that my own volition isn't part of it either, that volition suddenly becomes kind of a null concept, just like the action over a distance for gravity becomes a bit of a null concept.
yes. Well, gravity, Newtonian gravity can be measured, can be not measured, spoken about as a locality phenomenon, but not universal phenomenon. If your local gravity can be calculated and how it works by Newtonian mechanics, but your celestial gravity cannot. Since I did not tell you what I thought of free will and determinism, strangely enough, it's not too far off from where you are. I mean, I put it in much simpler terms. My college career was simplifying the things that I should have been taking pages and pages to say, which is basically there's no such thing as free will, but we can't tell the difference, so it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah. Of course, I believe there's free will. I really haven't any other choice in the matter.
Which is an even simpler way of doing it. Well, when you get to the cage, the entire idea of it, I'm thinking it has a lot to do with what is free will. One of the things I caught out of it, and I know there's two things that Roddenberry was trying to get across, but which is where some of the tension lie. Some of the tension in the story itself. One of the things that breaks it a little bit. He's trying to get across a free will. If you could have free will with gods, essentially. If you knew you had free will only within a limited space, where you had a menu of choices, but in the end, you didn't have the actual choice over your life. And then he was also trying to go, okay, is it better to have everything you want, or to is it better to have everything you want but know you're caged than to live free? And like I said, that's where the episode falls down a little bit for me, is in the tension between those two different ideas, because he's trying to get across there is that there isn't. I don't know. He's trying to get across that the free will, yeah, the free. I'm not going to repeat it. Did what I just say at least make some kind of sense?
Yeah, it seemed to. At least to me, it made sense. And a lot of the things that I felt that he kind of had the opportunity to touch on but didn't was that people who are out there exploring the galaxy are going to be particularly poor choices for a caged life.
Well, yeah, I
No
suppose.
matter how pleasant you want to make it, they've already said pleasantry is not the most important thing in my life.
Well, we start the episode. He wants to go live, or he's thinking of his horse and his um where he was happiest, and we
Yeah.
um and we he's sick of the exploring thing, and he doesn't want freedom, and he doesn't want this kind of freedom. He wants to live that life. um it's something that was very subtly echoed in the season of Picard. There was a callback to it. I know you haven't seen that yet, so I'm not going to really tell you.
Oh,
Or
no, I've seen Picard.
you have seen Picard. Have you noticed that there was a bit of a callback to um, the cage right in Picard?
I had
It's
not noticed.
it's partially thematic, and it's partially almost direct dialogue. So um, I don't know. That part's not, and it's hugely important, I suppose. Um,
We don't need to do spoilers for Picard for everybody.
no, and if you don't know, again, if you don't notice it, if you're not looking for it, it'll probably pass right by. But I mean, my living is as a writer, so certain things stick out at me, especially if a line is repeated at any point. Um,
Yeah.
so the well, what if there were if there were people that were not boxing, but controlling the perimeters of your life, some kind of over deity. What's would that? I mean, if you knew it instead of believed it, what would that do to you?
Yeah, well, with the whole Truman Show thing, it'd be creepy and horrifying to find out that you were just trapped in such a thing.
Hmm. Now that I've seen and didn't read because I saw it about 2 years ago.
Yeah, and that it's become a meme. I had to watch it eventually, and
Pretty much.
that would be horrifying. But to voluntarily step into such a thing, I'm not sure that would be that horrifying.
Hmm. Do you?
Especially when you consider the situations of the people involved with Pike and um, Viva,
Vina.
Vina.
I'm the one who's bad
That
with names.
Oh, I'm very bad with names. That I can challenge you on that. That they and Pike at the end of his career there, where they don't have much of a choice. Their life is going to be uninteresting for them without the effect of the menagerie, the or the cage, without the super intellects guiding them in their illusions.
Well, the when not to spoil Discovery much, but when Vina appears in Discovery, they mm, actually nope. I'm not gonna go into it.
Okay.
I know you haven't watched it yet, so it's one
Well,
of
okay,
those.
you can. I'm not worried about the spoilers on that. I will be watching it eventually, quite regardless. It's just on my list of things to do.
One of the things, that the menagerie that both because the scene in the cage show spoilers for a show that has been around for a zillion years, and you've been able to watch this pilot for since the 80s, but spoilers anyway. I feel the need because that's the way everybody does it now. In the last shot, when you see there's a copy of Pike made for Vina, who can't leave the planet.
Yeah.
And she's the thing that I wondered years ago was whether or not she knew that she didn't have Pike. That's been kind of cleared up now. Or whether in the end of the menagerie, where they have the same shot, whether Pike would forget, would not remember that he was in the cage.
Yeah, I thought that was very cool that they managed to reuse that footage in a different way there.
Yeah, my memory of the menagerie, I did see it when I was young, when I was little, but my memory is not there of it at all. Obvious in the pre-thing we were talking about it a little bit, and I totally managed to get who was on trial wrong. So if I got that wrong, and it
Well,
makes
the
it
other thing was that the trial was a complete sham too. Big
well.
spoilers on that, but
I will get. I'll get there. I suppose I don't have to talk about it much once I get there. I suppose this is. You said where it comes in organically. Um, this particular thing, I wanted to do my usual format of talking to somebody, and make it a sort of backdoor pilot for watching the original series. Kind of getting and reacting to it and talking about it because it's something I haven't done. And so this is my backdoor pilot for that. Yay!
yeah. Have you watched the original series before, or is that long ago in the past?
Uh,
Or
Bits of it. I've seen the like I say. I've read the James Blish books. I uh, we didn't watch TV when I was little. Um,
okay,
when nobody was home, I managed to sneak in a Twilight on a Saturday. I managed to sneak in a Twilight Zone, Carol Burnett, and Saturday Night Live. So I think that was right. Yeah,
yeah,
uh, and we didn't have a theater where I lived the most conscious portion of my life, uh, except for a family theater. So I remember, I remember Christian movies, proto
ah,
Christian movies. Uh,
a limited selection.
a very limited selection. The Wilderness Family is the only one I remember to any great extent of what we saw there. So that's if you've ever heard of it, don't
It only
go.
vaguely rings a bell.
Yeah, don't go and find it. It, I don't remember it being worth my time then, and it probably isn't now. Um,
But
my
that'll mean you get to watch Star Trek sort of clean.
yeah.
And, as long as you bear in mind it's a period piece and where it's from,
Well, I
it
watched the
was doing some bold things.
I watched the first four. The um uh the bulgy headed aliens. One the It's a Good Life in Space. Um, the Salt Lady, and Puny Mortals, where puny mortals were evolved beyond you already.
You know the salt lady, the sucked the salt out of people and all that. What
Yeah.
the he that at least apocryphally, uh, he they needed salt cellars, and they wanted futuristic salt cellars, so they sent people out to go buy futuristic salt cellars, and then none of them looked like salt cellars enough, so they just stole a salt cellar from the commissary for the beginning shot of that, where it's a spilled salt cellar,
Okay.
and used that. But then they had all these extra salt cellars, and they became the medical equipment.
Yes, I have. I have heard this. I have heard. I've heard this from Cast. So, and from David Gerald. So, but by the time David Gerald came on, it was apocryphal for him. It may have been apocryphal too, because you know.
I've heard it from fairly good sources, but I still always take it with a grain of salt.
So to speak. The well, what would your reaction be to what would your reaction be to what happens? What I mean, the story is so darn simple. It's really hard to make an entire episode out of it. I mean, it's hard to make an entire episode talking about it, not so much to make a long episode out of it. What would be the reaction? If you found out that you had the perimeters on your life from gods or even occupation.
The lotus eaters, you mean?
Yeah.
That they became the living strictly in their intellect and not producing, not doing anything anymore. Yeah, becoming gods.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, everybody in science fiction has tried their hand at the idea of becoming that, and whether it's good or not. But the Roddenberry, I know, was a what we'd call a humanist now, but I don't know if the term was around back then, secular humanist. And it was pretty obvious that the anti-God thing was very much in that episode. I don't think you're atheist too, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not right, because we talked about that on last week's Fluid Voice. I was still not quite all there for that. I had a bad drug, for anybody who only watches this, I had a very bad drug interaction that lasted for a couple of weeks, and it snuck up on me so slowly I didn't realize I was losing my mind. So it took a few days to regenerate from that.
Well, you seem fine.
Yeah,
You
probably.
seemed fine then too. I mean,
Yeah.
well,
Uh, it's Well, thankfully, the interview with Jesse was just before, because about Monday night is when I started to notice something was off. I had interviewed her on Monday, and thankfully, because if it had been Tuesday, I would have been a blithering idiot, as opposed to just my usual idiot self. Um, well,
but
yeah.
with the moral questions that come up with me, and the of whether you're a servant or a whether or the served there, when, as for instance, Pike returning, is he being used as a tool, which it doesn't seem very possible. He's not going to be re-terraforming the surface or anything, or helping them in any way in those regards. Though maybe he'd be helping to figure out how to repair the machinery that they no longer understand. I do not know
Oh,
how he'd be, fitting into that, but that sounds like a trade deal. Hey, I get to be young and healthy and able, and for the entire rest of my life, and I will help you out with what you need, what needs doing. That doesn't seem that it seems like he's entering into it as a deal that he understands.
yeah. Well, yeah, that would be a curious, because is it it's for the menagerie version of it. He'd still be physically unable. I mean, he and Vina are only communicating mentally anyway. Um, the
Yeah,
I
that
don't.
gets into all kinds of other fuzzy questions, because she was always all there, just not assembled correctly.
True, and of course, if we'd had later nerd fandom, um, my question would be, why couldn't they use the transporter to put her back together the correct way?
Ooh,
I always wondered why they don't use the transporter to just, oh,
do
you can,
surgery,
yeah,
remove bullets.
yeah, exactly. You have your buffer. I suppose it's well, I suppose it's continuity of time, personal continuity of time. So if you use the buffer version of you don't remember getting shot. I think it would be quite useful.
Well, it's not only that; it's not just the buffer version of you. I can just, can't I just start editing it right there and just edit out all that whatever you got shot with, the lead.
Or, in my case, there's a whole lot of editing that I'm doing, and it's taking a long time, and I'm using a lot of drugs to do it.
Well, there's that.
So, and in the end, it still won't be, perfect. But who who amongst us are except for you? Uh,
Well, even I see that's the I there.
oh, okay. Uh,
The
sorry,
imperfect perfect.
the imperfect perfect. Well, I'm future imperfect. I'm I'm sorry. I was going to make some kind of really dastardly pun, and I realized it was so complicated that it wouldn't work it wouldn't work.
Okay. But part of the thing is that people always bring in the determinism
Yeah.
on this, and I really just don't see where determinism, and I can see where people could argue. They could say, well, are you really free? Do you really have free will if you are living in an illusion? Could anything be said to be free will? And I can see where they can get into discussions of that because, whether it's free or not is really the big question. It's your will, it's your volition, but can you really be said to be exercising free will if you don't have choices and you can't produce results and
Well,
things like that? You go, well, okay, yeah, that I can see where that's a problem. But determinism never becomes part of it. I mean, you don't slide over into determinism. Your free will doesn't evaporate. Free will doesn't go away just because I hold a gun to your head. I've just distorted your free will. You no longer are free in the exercise of your will because of that threat.
this is true. I if somebody well if somebody is controlling your movements 24 hours a day, I mean, literally physically constraining you 24 hours a day, say, um, and has every say over what you do. My calling it the cage, I think, is a much better um, name than the menagerie, frankly. Uh, although the ends to get there, the ends they were going for are different, so perhaps not. I have to figure that out once I get there.
Yeah.
If once I've freely chosen what day, once I start this, I don't get to freely choose anymore. Such is the nature of the YouTube algorithm. But you do it on a regular basis, or you get buried. Um, the yeah, the question is always to me whether the 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 reason it falls apart between the two ideas that Ron Murray is trying to get across is because the um, Telosians are trying to or feed on or can't deal with strong emotions, but they do feed on emotions. Um, that's all they've
Yeah.
got. So I like that they need a semi docile but still free will um, group of animals. Um,
To start terraforming the surface and make it suitable for life again and all that sort of stuff.
yeah, this is true, but the
And fix the machines that they no
um,
longer had the interest or knowledge of how to fix.
yeah, as much as I know that's there, but it does get buried under the story beats to the point where I just watched it um, less than 3 weeks ago, and this is a story beat that I keep forgetting is there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know why they're down underground and living off of others' labor uh, as much as they need to eat and stuff. They don't discuss their eating at all.
Yeah, the only person who discusses the possibility of their eating is Spock, saying they must manufacture foodstuffs underground.
It makes sense. I mean, it is a glaring omission, so it would make sense that they'd pick it up in the
In the writing room. Yeah.
yeah. the yeah, again, I'm kind of like it's I don't know. I wonder what I would do if given that choice. If I had the um illusion, the illusion of having everything I wanted. I mean, I know I've accidentally traveled to the mirror timeline sometime in 2016. I'm not sure exactly what the point was. 2015, when some guy came down the elevator and instead of tripping and falling like he was supposed to, he made it down and had made a terrible speech. So that's when we traveled in the mirror. I traveled in the mirror timeline, the dark timeline. Damn it! I should have known. I should have known the butterfly
Should have known
effect.
then.
But the I did actually. I mean, I gave it serious consideration. I have a body that that doesn't suit me. I have I'm lazy. There's that. Uh, um, the if all I had to do was fix a couple of machines here and there, would that be suitable?
Would that be too high a price to pay to be your perfect you?
Yeah. And I don't know the answer. I don't have an answer to that. It's one of those things that it's more, the joy is more in the contemplation of it than the answer. Of,
Yeah.
of course, I spent 10 years trying to solve the three wishes problem. So.
Well, three wishes is one of those things that when I first encountered 1001 Arabian Nights and the Aladdin story and the three wishes, and then it came up as three wishes later, you know, the monkey's paw and so on.
Mm-hmm.
I understood it, and I understand that my take may not have been the intention of the author, but I still think I'm right. And that is that the three wishes is figure out what you want. If you want only one, if you're only going to want one thing, figure out what it is you should be wanting. What is the one thing that will make you happy? Figure out what that is. When you say you want to be rich, why do you want to be rich? You want to be rich because you want the adoration of everyone you know. Okay, well, that's what you want. You don't want to be rich. You want the adoration of everyone that you know. Now, how do you achieve that? How do you get that? Figure out how to get the adoration of everyone that you know. Then execute. It's a three-step process. The wisdom to know what it is you should want, the knowledge of how to get what you want. If you can only have one wish, if I can only have one wish, what is the one thing I want to know? What's the one thing I should want? What's the one thing I should wish for that I can get with one wish? And then I want to know how to use a wish in order to get that thing. Then what do you do with the third wish is obvious. That's execute. And it's supposed to be a parable for how to do life. Figure out the thing that you want, figure out how to get it, execute, rinse and repeat. Does that make sense?
No, it makes absolute sense. I suppose my solution was a little bit more clinical, but you brought it back around to what we were talking about anyway. So there you go. uh, um, I, usually when I say I took this is how I fell asleep at night. Is I for about 10 years while I was in a great deal of pain all the time. I to fall asleep, I'd work on this, and everybody who says, "So what's the solution?" I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking tell you. You spend 10 years and figure it out.
See, that's how it goes. Yeah.
I may put it in a book somewhere. Maybe part of the. I may do some kind of silliness on the monkey's paw and use a good solution to it.
It is about the journey, not the destination.
Yes, exactly. I got my kid to do it when my kid had insomnia. I have no idea if he solved it or not. I don't care. I mean, I care that he stopped having insomnia.
See?
I'd be curious to sit down someday and see if we got the same solution. But it is the question. One of the reasons for asking the question was trying to figure out if I could have what I wanted in what scenarios I wanted it. Would that be of use to me? I say I'm lazy, and I certainly think I am, but I do kind of I work too
That is
hard.
sort of the nature of the beast. We are lazy by definition. That's human beings do that. Minimum effort.
Yes, there's a purple thing behind me, which you've now seen what's under it. There you go. If anybody wants to know what's under the purple thing, watch this last week of Fluid Voice. See, I'm going to keep promoting
There we
that.
go.
Because this is the first time I don't have the purple thing up. And that's stuff I should take care of, but it's just being covered up by that. I don't know. I once I started the channel here and the work I do, the work now I'm doing with Fluid Voice, the research I'm doing for that, I'm not actually coming in cold. I did this last couple of weeks, but this last week I came in cold. But I spend a fair amount of time researching both this and the interview part and the thing for Fluid Voice.
Yeah.
And plus I've got my regular gig, which I need to do more of. I'll have a story in a trans charity thing coming out very soon. So there's a big name headlining it, and I won't say who it is, but it's a big name. So look, so
I will be watching.
Yes.
And if it goes up on YouTube, I will be watching that too. Yeah.
Oh no, it's I'm doing a story for it. I'm doing a story for so there's a well-known writer who's doing the headlining story, which is always a well, See, I'm gonna smoothly put it back to double-edged swords here. Um, it's a double-edged sword. I had one in the guy Jim Butcher put a there was an anthology I was in where it was headlined by Jim Butcher novelette novelette for Dresden Files, and most of the reviews didn't go past that. So I don't know how many people actually read the story. I got paid for it in it. Uh,
In the Dresden Files?
well, no, there was a Dresden Files that headlines the
Okay.
anthology that I was in, and so it's a double-edged sword. If you have a big headliner,
I see. Yeah.
yeah, who is anybody going to read your story or just read the headliner? Uh,
Well, I was always one of those people who would definitely can't leave something unfinished.
ah, yeah, that's why I never get into open-ended games. I mean, literally never get into open-ended games because I will start obsessing and then try and finish it,
Aha.
even if it can't be finished. Um,
So have you finished the internet yet?
that's I'm from long ago. I'm from far enough back on the internet where I did do that. Um, be, before you peons actually heard of the internet back in, back in the
Back in the
80s,
day.
back in the day, back in 1980, 81. So it's a DARPA net. Pretty much all you could do was play a strange version of Pong or strange version of Breakout and try and break into the Pentagon. Those are your two
Those
options.
were it. The evening's entertainment was pretty simple. Yeah, yeah.
the the double-edged sword of wanting to have everything work out um, when circumstances insist that it doesn't. Um, the cat, yeah, but let's go. Let's hit it. The Captain Pike from the Menagerie. His life should have worked out one way,
Yeah.
and um, and it didn't for reasons that aren't his fault. Um, and
I'm
so
not sure
just
if we get a real explanation of why he's in a uh, wheelchair device, life support thing.
no, they do come. Again, they preview it in Discover. They preview it in Discovery, but they don't give you much of an explanation there either, which was cool. Uh, they just said, "Okay, this is the thing that will happen to you." So now he knows that it will happen. That's the only difference, and he goes forward anyway.
Ah, that messes with determinism too, though. That I can see where that would be into the determinism spectrum.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to. Um, eh, he,
Because that's fate. I mean, that's saying that it's gonna happen.
it's well, it's gonna it's yeah. Um, there's second season of Discovery has a large undercurrent of what fate is. Um, uh, I'm trying really hard not to spoil. Not to. I know you're going to watch it
Oh,
anyway,
do not worry about
but
spoiling it. You can't spoil it for me. I will be enjoying it no matter what we talk about.
uh, I have 131 people, I guess. Who I don't want to spoil it for either.
Okay.
They will.
If you're going, it's an ongoing thing and not yet, 2 years old. So,
Yeah, and the and it deals very much with free will, fate, and determinism, and putting fate as something aside from determinism. And aside,
yeah, that gets all weird. People get very fuzzy about it, where they don't have things well defined, but they have strong feelings on it.
pretty much. Though they did it properly, so look forward to that at least. If you're going to put fate and determinism as two different things, that's in between free will and fate as something that's in between free will and determinism, they did it well. They did it properly. Whatever you think of the writing, whatever you think of it being Star Trek or not, you could, for those who really hated the first season, they're hating on something for a reason. A lot of people watched 3 or 4 episodes and said, I hate this. This is not Star Trek. When it the reason it is the way it is the Star Trekiest reason of in the universe. But the second season with Captain Pike is pretty amazing.
A lot of people were upset about the Klingons. And I was like, the Klingons have been vastly changed, but it's cool. I'm just not sure that they needed to be calling it Star Trek, but it was very cool. And they using the Klingons and that they were made into a very scary race, but they were of, everything was of Gothic cathedral design and so on. It was their ships were huge instead of their ships were small and cramped for space and that sort of thing, where, amenities were not included. It was,
Well, it's pre the original series, and so things change, and because they have the virus, the evolution virusy thing, that was mentioned in Enterprise, that was gone over in Enterprise, is why
yeah.
they look different from the original series. It's not like they haven't changed a lot every single freaking time you see them. um, and I will be honest, I watched the pilot episode of Discovery, and then I didn't go back until it was well into season 2. Because I thought, this, what the fuck is this? But on rewatching it was much better. And I got where they were going, and I got like 4 episodes, and I was like, okay, give me more of this. I'm good. Some wonky storytelling.
Yeah, I do kind of appreciate not having to wait a week between every episode.
This is one of the reasons I like living in the future.
Yeah.
I want to see all of MASH. I can do that in about 4 weeks. It's something for my child that, again, we didn't watch TV, so I watched all of MASH while I was bedridden. So,
Yeah. See? You can still get things done.
See, the without the laugh track for the first 5 seasons, and then the laugh track was back in for the 6th 11th or 10th, and it was very jarring. But it was also jarring where they paused for laughter. So
Yeah.
the laughter that wasn't there. Uh, 6 of one, half of the dozen of the other. Double-edged swords. God damn it! I got back there. the I don't know. In the end, what do you think he was trying to, what point do you think he was trying to make? Was it just about, I am a free man, because he was a very collectivist in a lot of ways?
That Roddenberry was
Yeah.
trying to make. I think
Yes.
in the menagerie he was talking, it was basically what it was the nature of kindness,
Oh, okay.
and whether it's a trap or a treasure is a matter of your perspective at the moment.
Hmm. That's interesting. I mean, they did a little bit of that with the way they ended Vina at in the cage too. The
Yeah, that he accepted and said that he understood her reasons for staying and so on.
yeah, and well, even then, the kindness of them trying to give the survivor the who let the survivor live in the illusion that she was who she appeared to be,
Yeah,
although even knowing that she wasn't. Uh, that's that that and you know uh um women with the Telosians themselves, women with men's voices. Both of those resonate for me. I'm not entirely sure why.
yeah.
uh I may be called true scum for that one, for that comment. I'm certain of it. I'm not. um I'm not even, yeah. Sorry. um I just wanted to take care of that right now. Not true scum, not transmedicalist, not
Not nearly.
not nearly. I don't. Yeah. Um. No. Yeah. You've talked to me enough times. You know where I stand on all of that. I'm very accepting of everybody. I'm so accepting that I kind of get blinded to who they used to be, or who I don't remember the costume they had on. Is what
Yeah.
uh, I always put it as a costume I wore. So
It's a good way
um,
of putting it.
yeah, it's still the same person underneath. Um, just you're playing a role. It's I haven't met well, I met a bazillion writers over my life, because that's my thing. Um, um, haven't met too many actors though, but I started to start. But I know what it's like to play a role that isn't real. So this is where I get into the trans thing, because I can't separate that out from watching it, and I couldn't separate it out when I saw it in 1989 too, when I decided I was never coming out. Um,
In watching menagerie or cage, or you're saying?
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
couldn't. It's something I couldn't separate out, um, which is a personal thing, and I've been trying to this whole time. And I thought, okay, this is going to be the one time I don't talk about trans issues at all. It's not going to happen. It's it's a big part of
So
my life, right?
yeah, I think it's fair that it comes up.
um, but yeah, it's. But I don't believe in free will anyway, so my choices in the matter were prescribed, is the word I've been hunting for this entire time. Um, Prescribed by these edges that that fought, um, free will within certain spaces. I don't even think is a thing, but you can pretend it is. Um, I taught something you don't know about me. I taught in a prison for a year, and the movement of peoples and how much they had freedom for themselves, was interesting, and how they would,
Yeah.
and how one of the things they did was they did escape a lot into, um, the fantasy thing. Um, in the library, the um, romances were really big, of all things. So I I, I kind of
Yeah.
want I kind of want to end somewhere in there. I don't know. Now that I'm going into a different place where how people are people are in this situation when they know they're in a cage. Um,
Well, that's interesting, though. I mean, it applies. It's another look at the topic.
yeah,
How do people behave when they know they are in a cage?
yeah. It's it's got to be it's got to be a frustrating thing. I don't know. I tried to do as much. Uh, English English and math are freeing. You get your GED and you're on your way to a bright future, which
Man, a man, a man, a man.
that's not so true, but I tried. Uh, the Anyway, it was really cool to talk this out with you. I will be doing the episodes by myself, but this is, I wanted to ease into it from my regular format to um, to something new, and perhaps put. I'm working on learning my editing program so I can put stills and stuff up. We're actually recording this. We'll be finished just over 2 hours before it has to go out, so editing it is not a thing. Um, I appreciate Perfect for being here. Thank you so much, Perfect.
A pleasure, as always.
Uh,
You are a
well,
pleasure, as always.
thank you. I have no choice. Uh, the, um, I have to do the YouTube prayer, so please like this if you liked it. Please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and hit all under that so you can get all of it. Or there's a way to split up the things if people have. I don't know how to do that though, so just hit all because you can skip what you don't want. Um, and leave a comment. I have a PayPal and Patreon that's listed down below. Um, Perfict doesn't have any way to get a hold of him at all.
Well, I'm on Discord all the time.
You're on Discord all the time. Should I say the name of your room, or is that an invitation only thing?
No, that'd be fine. There's the ACA and the Rumpus Room, and
Well, the Rumpus Room is yours, right?
yes,
Okay. And the Fluid Voice Room
and the Fluid
is
Voice, yes.
that's ours. The four of us, you, me, Alani, and Ozma in the dark. Eliani. Damn it! I will get that right eventually.
L.
Yeah, I know, but I've been through it, and even though I still call myself Chris for short, I can't find my. I couldn't find my Zoom again, so I couldn't tell if it was in frame. Even though I'm still Chris for professional reasons, the being called Christy is much nicer to me. It's and I'm still in that transition period, so I want to give Eliani that same benefit.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So L, when I know I'm gonna mess it up, is the only time I'm gonna do that. Like just now. So yeah, the four of us have the Fluid Voice. You have that. We have the Fluid Voice. The ACA is a place I don't go anymore, but we've talked about that elsewhere.
Yeah.
The done leave a comment. I've done PayPal. Oh, and Patreon. I have a Patreon page, and I'm going to start actually paying attention to the people on the Patreon page. And Sash Daniels is the only one I know of that is there, but I know I have another one that for some reason I never got a notification about. So and I can't seem to log in, and I'll have to deal with that. All right. This is Christy Abbey with Perfict. Remember, your voice matters, your life matters, and you matter. And live long and prosper.